Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. You know, these people who live in a different kind of world that we live, they can go as far as they can, but then they will have to face reality. So, you know, the things will still fall down, the gravitational forces will still be active, the wind will still blow, the sun will still shine. They can pretend certain things that don't exist or exist. In the end, when they will be faced with really doing something, they will realize that all their Alice in Wonderland worldview is nothing. And then they will start being hysterical and will blame, I don't know, somebody for that. In this case, you know, the Ukrainian and not Ukrainians, because Ukrainians are just used here, but the United States and NATO and these weasels who tell us what's going on in Ukraine and how, you know, the Russians are all evil and the other side are just perfect. They have to face reality at one point. And from time to time you have a guy who just comes out in an article and says it. And that just goes away and then back to the Alice in Wonderland science fiction movie. In this case, we have the military, and you know, if you make a bad assessment based on bad intelligence, then the outcome is going to be up and it's going to have consequences that will result in death and destruction and misery. So they have to be as accurate as possible with their information and assessments. In this case, we have the military, obviously, and they will come with something that it was not hard to figure it out, but nobody said it. And not nobody, but it was rarely promoted by the mass media. And I'm talking about the Russian potential military power, and I'm talking about manpower that has. These guys say, oh, Russia runs out of people, it's hard to you know, mobilize them. Russia has no fighters, nobody wants to fight. And I'm exaggerating a little bit, but that's what we are supposed to understand. Now, what is this guy saying, which was not very hard, and I said it before many times, and this is the total number of potential Russian military personnel. This article comes from Ukrainska Pravda from October 14th, 2022. Russian Federation has 2 million mobilized at hand with potential total of 29 million. Lieutenant General Serhiy Nayev, commander of the Joint Forces of Ukrainian Armed Forces, reports that the number of mobilized the Russians have at hand is about 2 million, with a potential total of about 29 million. Yes, that was not hard to figure it out, Lieutenant. I knew you knew that from the very beginning, for a long time actually. Is these guys that don't say it. Oh, the Russians are leaving their territory. Oh, the Russians don't want to fight. Okay, and I made a little calculation. And you go by this. Russian population, 145, let's say, million people, right? You divide it in two. That is about men and women. Well, women are not in a war zone in Russia, as they try to push it here. So that's why I divide it basically that way. So it's 50%, let's put it, male population. So it's about what, 73, let's drop it to 70 million people, men. Now from there you get the people under the age of, let's say, 18, and from 70 you get about, let's say, 30%, 20%, I would say 30%, I give them 30%. So then you get from 70, let's say, you get to about, you remain with about 50 million. Let's say 40 million available. And then you get the old people, so you get, let's say, 10 more million, just saying, no? So you get about 40 million or something like that. People that are incapable of serving and so on, you get to 30 million, you get to 20 million. But you still get to something about tens of millions. You don't get in 2 million and 300,000 people. And those are potentially, that's a total mobilization. That is Second World War mobilization. Everyone, let's go, including women. And you can get women also to go and fight and have a rifle and do certain active combat missions. But here, this is the potential. The only thing that I see Russia really not having is the advanced military weaponry, which means missile systems, launching systems, and airplanes and all that. But airplanes, they had about what? Almost 2,000 airplanes, and this is just fighter jets. I don't know how many were operational, but just cut it in two. You got 1,000 at least. They said, well, the pilots, Wagner group helps with the pilots in Russia. I don't believe that a bit. That the Russian military is depleted of fighters, of fighter jets, pilots. I don't believe that, because they would get you, let's say you got 500 airplanes, aircraft, right? 500, let's say you need 2 at least. So you don't have 1,000 pilots in a population of 140 million, and you had time to prepare all these guys since they're, let's say, 25 to 50. It's 25 years over there. 25 years. Get 25 years from now, from 2022, you get about, let's say, I'm giving you 2,000. From 2000 until 2020, you don't have at your disposal 1,000 pilots. I don't believe that. They probably have about 10,000. That could be just taken back and recruited and let's go. They have to get the Wagner group, retired military. Why? They didn't fly Wagner airplanes. I don't think Wagner group has airplanes, just so you know. So you take someone that used to be a pilot, and now it's a Wagner group, mainly infantry. That's what you are. You're not a tank operator on that. Maybe you are, but or airplanes. I don't think Wagner group is allowed to have fighter jets, just so you know, because otherwise they can turn on you and just come and bomb Kremlin in 3 minutes. Just saying. Then that's another thing with the pilots. These guys being the Western mass media, and obviously the Ukrainian mass media, who doesn't want to portray the situation as it is. Those guys have the capacity. So if you talk about missile systems, rockets, yeah, that could be depleted. But airplanes, if Russia has enough, and believe me, they have Kalashnikovs, a lot of them. Why? Because each and every country, just so you know, has a how should I put it, strategic operational plan. Let's call it this way. And you have that in case of this scenario, in case of this scenario, and in case of this scenario. So this scenario is when you're going to say total mobilization 30 million people, let's say. Where do you have? You have it. They have stored all the ammunition necessary to go a certain kind of time. They don't have it, oh, what are we going to do now? No, that's a retard country. And Russia is not a retard country. And neither is NATO and the normal countries. They have this and say, okay, how long do you plan on conducting the war? Let's say for defending your country. 6 months, a month, a year. They put it to a certain time. They say 20 million people. 20 million, or let's say 30 million people. Let's say we mobilize them. We have to give them at least one, let's say one automatic weapons. They have to have them somewhere. They have to have munitions to keep them running for a minimum 6 months of defending their country, or a year. It depends how much they put. So these guys are ready. Those things are ready, shiny, ready to be used. The thing is just the order, the circumstance. So this guy, when he came here, Lieutenant General, whatever he is, and he comes that, I said, duh, yeah, that's certain. So when they say, oh my God, they can't get 300,000 people, that's a lie. That's been a lie from the very beginning. Because just make a little calculation. The Russian army and on the front line with Ukraine is no more than 150, excuse me, 150,000 people. And I'm very generous. They're not over there. They're not. They haven't been. They fought with auxiliary forces, which are Chechens, which are Wagner Group and volunteers, and the guys on the territory of those provinces. That's the bulk of Russian army forces, allied armies. That's how you want to put it. I put it that way because that's the way people put it in these articles. Well, there's no more than 200,000 people fighting the Ukrainian army, which is about what, 1 million with the mobilization. It was an article that I said mobilized about 1,200,000 at the beginning, and then they had another mobilization in between the 24th of February. So you know, Russia, as I said, is not fighting with everything it has whatsoever, and Ukraine is. So Ukraine is, and Russia is not. So Russia is just upping a little bit more and see how it goes, upping a little more. Wants the least effort and the least I'm talking about the manpower and the least engagement. They want losses minimized. Why? They don't want to have problems and disrupt the society. That's why they don't want to destroy their economy. They don't want to have mass protests and so on. All of a sudden have plastic whatever body bags coming back home. They are, but when I say, well, that's 60,000 people we killed. Well, probably from the 60,000, you killed about, let's say, 10,000 at the most Russians. The rest are auxiliaries, which are on their territories fighting for their territory. So yeah, when this guy says that they already have, how much he said, 2 million, I think he said, 2 million mobilized at hand, that's the guys that are active. Yes, and then a total of 29 potential total. 29, and I didn't consider people over 50 or people or women or they can lower standards if it's the circumstances dictate. Well, finally these guys are saying it, but I'm assuming this article is going to go like this, or this article is just to maybe have the Ukrainians beg for more weapons. Not beg, because they don't have to beg. NATO, United States knows exactly how much they need to keep the Ukrainians fighting and dying against the Russians. So they don't have to beg. This is just a game. Oh, give us weapons. They will receive weapons anyway, without even asking. But they do it so we don't catch the little game that actually these are just the guys actively involved over there, and these guys provide them with everything. Well, whatever. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.